really want to see what they do. I just want to see how they covered. I've never seen anything like it, but it would be really great if we could be covered fairly by the media. The media is the biggest problem we have as far as I'm concerned. Single biggest problem. The fake news and the big tech. Investigations. The Capitol siege. The arrested and their stories. National security. Capitol riot prompts a reckoning over extremism in the ranks. Big tech is now coming into their own. We beat them 4 years ago. We surprised them. We took them by surprise, and this year they rigged an election. They rigged it like they've never rigged an election before. And by the way, last night they didn't do a bad job either, if you notice. I'm honest, and I want to thank you. It's just a great honor to have this kind of crowd and to be before you and hundreds of thousands of American patriots who are committed to the honesty of our elections and the integrity of our glorious republic. All of us here today do not want to see our election victory stolen by emboldened radical left Democrats, which is what they're doing, and stolen by the fake news media. That's what they've done and what they're doing. We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved. Our country has had enough. We will not take it anymore. And that's what this is all about. And to use a favorite term that all of you people really came up with, we will stop the steal. Today I will lay out just some of the evidence proving that we won this election, and we won it by a landslide. This was not a close election. Politics. Georgia District Attorney is investigating Trump's call to overturn election. You know, I say, sometimes jokingly, but there's no joke about it. I've been in 2 elections. I won them both, and the second one, I won much bigger than the first. Okay, almost 75 million people voted for our campaign, the most of any incumbent president by far in the history of our country, 12 million more people than 4 years ago. And I was told by the real pollsters, we do have real pollsters, they know that we were going to do well, and we were going to win. What I was told, if I went from 63 million, which we had 4 years ago, to 66 million, there was no chance of losing. Well, we didn't go to 66. We went to 75 million, and they say we lost. We didn't lose. And by the way, does anybody believe that Joe had 80 million votes? Does anybody believe that? He had 80 million computer votes. It's a disgrace. There's never been anything like that. You could take third world countries. Just take a look. Take third world countries. Their elections are more honest than what we've been going through in this country. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. Even when you look at last night, they're all running around like chickens with their heads cut off with boxes. Nobody knows what the hell is going on. There's never been anything like this. We will not let them silence your voices. We're not going to let it happen. I'm not going to let it happen. Audience chants. Fight for Trump. Thank you. And I'd love to have if those tens of thousands of people would be allowed. The military, the Secret Service. And we want to thank you and the police law enforcement. Great. You're doing a great job. But I'd love it if they could be allowed to come up here with us. Is that possible? Can you just let him come up, please? And Rudy, you did a great job. He's got guts. You know what? He's got guts, unlike a lot of people in the Republican Party. He's got guts. He fights. And I'll tell you, thank you very much, John. Fantastic job. I watched. That's a tough act to follow, those two. John is one of the most brilliant lawyers in the country. And he looked at this and he said, what an absolute disgrace that this can be happening to our Constitution. And he looked at Mike Pence, and I hope Mike is going to do the right thing. I hope so. I hope so. Because if Mike Pence does the right thing, we win the election. All he has to do, this is from the number one or certainly one of the top constitutional lawyers in our country. He has the absolute right to do it. We're supposed to protect our country, support our Constitution, and protect our Constitution. States want to revote. The states got defrauded. They were given false information. They voted on it. Now they want to recertify. They want it back. All Vice President Pence has to do is send it back to the states to recertify, and we become president, and you are the happiest people. And I just spoke to Mike. I said, Mike, that doesn't take courage. What takes courage is to do nothing. That takes courage. And then we're stuck with a president who lost the election by a lot, and we have to live with that for 4 more years. We're just not going to let that happen. Many of you have traveled from all across the nation to be here, and I want to thank you for the extraordinary love. That's what it is. There's never been a movement like this, ever, ever. For the extraordinary love for this amazing country and this amazing movement. Thank you. Audience chants. We love Trump. By the way, this goes all the way back past the Washington Monument. You believe this? Look at this. That is. Unfortunately, they gave the press the prime seats. I can't stand that. No. But you look at that behind. I wish they'd flip those cameras and look behind you. That is the most amazing sight. When they make a mistake, you get to see it on television. Amazing. Amazing. All the way back. And don't worry, we will not take the name off the Washington Monument. We will not cancel culture. Trump impeachment trial, live updates. Graphic video, rambling defense. Takeaways from Senate impeachment day 1. You know they wanted to get rid of the Jefferson Memorial. Either take it down or just put somebody else in there. I don't think that's going to happen. It damn well better not. Although with this administration, if this happens, it could happen. You'll see some really bad things happen. In there. I don't think that's going to happen. It damn well better not. Although with this administration, if this happens, it could happen. You'll see some really bad things happen. Better not. Although with this administration, if this happens, it could happen. You'll see some really bad things happen. They'll knock out Lincoln too, by the way. They've been taking his statue down. But then we signed a little law. You hurt our monuments, you hurt our heroes, you go to jail for 10 years, and everything stopped. You noticed that? It stopped. It all stopped. And they could use Rudy back in New York City. Rudy, they could use you. Your city's going to hell. They want Rudy Giuliani back in New York. We'll get a little younger version of Rudy. Is that okay, Rudy? We're gathered together in the heart of our nation's capital for one very, very basic and simple reason: to save our democracy. You know, most candidates on election evening, and of course, this thing goes on so long, they still don't have any idea what the votes are. We still have congressional seats under review. They have no idea. They've totally lost control. They've used the pandemic as a way of defrauding the people in a proper election. But you know, when you see this and when you see what's happening, number one, they all say, "Sir, we'll never let it happen again." I said, "That's good. But what about 8 weeks ago?" You know, they try and get you to go. They said, "Sir, in 4 years, you're guaranteed." I said, "I'm not interested right now. Do me a favor, go back 8 weeks. I want to go back 8 weeks. Let's go back 8 weeks. We want to go back and we want to get this right because we're going to have somebody in there that should not be in there and our country will be destroyed. And we're not going to stand for that." For years, Democrats have gotten away with election fraud and weak Republicans. And that's what they are. There's so many weak Republicans, and we have great ones. Jim Jordan and some of these guys, they're out there fighting. The House guys are fighting, but it's incredible. Many of the Republicans, I helped them get in, I helped them get elected. I helped Mitch get elected. I could name 24 of them. Let's say, I won't bore you with it. And then all of a sudden you have something like this. It's like, oh gee, maybe I'll talk to the president sometime later. No, it's amazing. They're weak Republicans, they're pathetic Republicans, and that's what happens. Trump impeachment trial, live updates. Impeachment managers argue Trump is singularly responsible for Capitol attack. Trump impeachment trial, live updates. Trump lawyers reject impeachment case, calling it political theater. If this happened to the Democrats, there'd be hell all over the country going on. There'd be hell all over the country. But just remember this, you're stronger, you're smarter, you've got more going than anybody. And they try and demean everybody having to do with us. And you're the real people. You're the people that built this nation. You're not the people that tore down our nation. The weak Republicans, and that's it. I really believe it. I think I'm going to use the term, the weak Republicans. You've got a lot of them. And you got a lot of great ones. But you got a lot of weak ones. They've turned a blind eye, even as Democrats enacted policies that chipped away our jobs, weakened our military, through open our borders and put America last. Did you see the other day where Joe Biden said, I want to get rid of the America First policy? What's that all about? Get rid of. How do you say I want to get rid of America First? Even if you're going to do it, don't talk about it, right? Unbelievable what we have to go through. What we have to go through. And you have to get your people to fight. And if they don't fight, we have to primary the hell out of the ones that don't fight. You primary them. We're going to. We're going to let you know who they are. I can already tell you, frankly. But this year, using the pretext of the China virus and the scam of mail-in ballots, Democrats attempted the most brazen and outrageous election theft, and there's never been anything like this. So pure theft in American history. Everybody knows it. That election, our election was over at 10 o'clock in the evening. We're leading Pennsylvania, Michigan, Georgia by hundreds of thousands of votes. And then late in the evening or early in the morning, boom, these explosions of bull asterisk, 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 asterisk. And all of a sudden it started to happen. Audience chants, bull asterisk, 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 asterisk. Don't forget when Romney got beat. Romney, hey, did you see his? I wonder if he enjoyed his flight in last night. But when Romney got beaten, he stands up like your more typical, well, I'd like to congratulate the victor. The victor? Republicans are constantly fighting like a boxer with his hands tied behind his back. It's like a boxer. And we want to be so nice. We want to be so respectful of everybody, including bad people. And we're going to have to fight much harder. Sponsor message. And Mike Pence is going to have to come through for EV created the greatest economy in history. We rebuilt our military. We get you the biggest tax cuts in history, right? We got you the biggest regulation cuts. There's no president, whether it's 4 years, 8 years, or in one case more, got anywhere near the regulation cuts. Used to take 20 years to get a highway approved. Now we're down to 2. I want to get it down to 1, but we're down to 2. And it may get rejected for environmental or safety reasons, but we got it down to safety. Sponsor message. We created Space Force. We. Look at what we did. Our military has been totally rebuilt. So we create Space Force, which, by and of itself, is a major achievement for an administration. And with us, it's one of so many different things. Right to try. I read a story in one of the newspapers recently how I control the 3 Supreme Court justices. I control them. They're puppets. I read it about Bill Barr, that he's my personal attorney, that he'll do anything for me. And I said, it really is genius. Because what they do is that, and it makes it really impossible for them to ever give you a victory because all of a sudden Bill Barr changed. If you hadn't noticed, I like Bill Barr, but he changed because he didn't want to be considered my personal attorney. And the Supreme Court, they rule against me so much. You know why? Because the story is, I haven't spoken to any of them, since virtually they got in. But the story is that they're my puppets, right? That they're puppets. And now the only way they can get out of that, because they hate that it's not good in the social circuit. And the only way they get out is to rule against Trump. So let's rule against Trump. And they do that. So I want to congratulate them. But it shows you the media's genius. In fact, probably if I was the media, I'd do it the same way. I hate to say it, but we got to get them straightened out. Today, for the sake of our democracy, for the sake of our Constitution, and for the sake of our children, we lay out the case for the entire world to hear. You want to hear it? Audience responds. Yeah. In every single swing state, local officials, state officials, almost all Democrats, made illegal and unconstitutional changes to election procedures without the mandated approvals by the state legislatures. That these changes paved a way for fraud on a scale never seen before. I think we go a long way outside of our country when I say that. So, just in a nutshell, you can't make a change or voting for a federal election unless the state legislature approves it. No judge can do it. Nobody can do it. Only a legislature. So as an example, in Pennsylvania or whatever, you have a Republican legislature, you have a Democrat mayor, and you have a lot of Democrats all over the place. They go to the legislature. The legislature laughs at them, says, we're not going to do that. They say, thank you very much, and they go and make the changes themselves. They do it anyway. And that's totally illegal. That's totally illegal. You can't do that. In Pennsylvania, the Democrat Secretary of State and the Democrat State Supreme Court justices illegally abolished the signature verification requirements just 11 days prior to the election. So think of what they did. No longer is there signature verification. Oh, that's okay. We want voter ID, by the way. But no longer is there signature verification. 11 days before the election, they say we don't want it. You know why they don't want to? Because they want to cheat. That's the only reason. Who would even think of that? We don't want to verify a signature. There were over 205,000 more ballots counted in Pennsylvania. Think of this, you had 205,000 more ballots than you had voters. That means you had two. Where did they come from? You know where they came from? Somebody's imagination, whatever they needed. So in Pennsylvania, you had 205,000 more votes than you had voters. And the number is actually much greater than that now. That was as of a week ago. And this is a mathematical impossibility unless you want to say it's a total fraud. So Pennsylvania was defrauded. Over 8,000 ballots in Pennsylvania were cast by people whose names and dates of birth match individuals who died in 2020 and prior to the election. Think of that. Dead people, lots of dead people, thousands. And some dead people actually requested an application. That bothers me even more. Not only are they voting, they want an application to vote. One of them was 29 years ago, died. It's incredible. Over 14,000 ballots were cast by out-of-state voters, so these are voters that don't live in this state. And by the way, these numbers are what they call outcome determinative, meaning these numbers far surpass. I lost by a very little bit. These numbers are massive, massive. More than 10,000 votes in Pennsylvania were illegally counted, even though they were received after Election Day. In other words, they were received after Election Day. Let's count them anyway. And what they did in many cases is they did fraud. They took the date and they moved it back so that it no longer is after Election Day. And more than 60,000 ballots in Pennsylvania were reported. You will have an illegitimate president. That's what you'll have. And we can't let that happen. These are the facts that you won't hear from the fake news media. It's all part of the suppression effort. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about it. In fact, when I started talking about that, I guarantee you a lot of the television sets and a lot of those cameras went off. And that's a lot of cameras back there. But a lot of them went off. But these are the things you don't hear about. You don't hear what you just heard. I'm going to go over a few more states, but you don't hear it by the people who want to deceive you and demoralize you and control you. Big tech, media. Just like the suppression polls that said we're going to lose Wisconsin by 17 points. Well, we won Wisconsin. They don't have it that way because they lost just by a little sliver. But they had me down the day before, Washington Post/ABC poll, down 17 points. I called up a real pollster. I said, "What is that?" "Sir, that's called a suppression poll. I think you're going to win Wisconsin, sir." I said, "But why don't they make it 4 or 5 points?" "Because then people vote. But when you're down 17, they say, hey, I'm not going to waste my time. Think about it. Detroit had more votes than it had voters. Pennsylvania had 205,000 more votes than it had more. But you don't have to go any. Between that, I think that's almost better than dead people if you think, right? More votes than they had voters. And many other states also. It's a disgrace that the United States of America, tens of millions of people, are allowed to go vote without so much as even showing identification. In no state is there any question or effort made to verify the identity, citizenship, residency, or eligibility of the votes cast. The Republicans have to get tougher.
Okay,
You're
let's
not going
go
to have
to
a
the
Republican
end.
Party if you don't get tougher.
I didn't know the
They want
speech
to
was
play
this
so
long.
straight. They want to play so, sir, yes, the United States. The Constitution doesn't allow me to send them back to the states. Well, I say, yes, it does, because the Constitution says you have to protect our country and you have to protect our Constitution. And I say this despite all that's happened. The best is yet to come. So we're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I love Pennsylvania Avenue. And we're going to the Capitol and we're going to try and give. The Democrats are hopeless. They never vote for anything, not even one vote. But we're going to try and give our Republicans the weak ones because the strong ones don't need any of our help. We're going to try and give them the kind of pride and boldness that they need to take back our country. So let's walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I want to thank you all. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you all for being here. This is incredible. Thank you very much. Thank you. Facebook, Flipboard, email, more stories from NPR. 2024 election.